Imagine instead of making memories, you're grinding through the best years of your life, only to finally retire when your energy is running out or your health is in shambles. But what if retiring early by like your 40s or 50s was effortless? Not just for tech moguls or Wall Street elites, but for any high earner that follows a simple path. In this video, we're breaking down exactly how to retire early, step by step. Hey, I'm Andy, I'm a financial coach. I help six-figure households that are tired of living paycheck to paycheck break the paycheck to paycheck cycle with automation. And I've helped hundreds of clients get closer to their retirement goals without cutting out the fun from their lives. No crazy budgeting rules, zero guilt trips, just a plan that works for real people like you. Let's dive in. Most people expect to work until their 60s because that's when Social Security kicks in and you can actually dip into your retirement accounts without penalty. But if we step back and think about it, does it really make sense to work for like 40 years of your life to maybe get some time off for 10 to 15 years? Not to mention that Social Security was never designed to be a pension in the first place. Retirement isn't about age. It's about having enough money to stop working when you want to stop, to be able to choose passion projects over survival, like choosing to teach art because you love it, not because you're desperate for a paycheck. Now, to expand further on the concept of retirement, I prefer the term financial independence, which is when you have enough money generated through assets to make work optional. Before you can map out your path to financial freedom, you need to figure out exactly where you stand today and where you're headed. So before planning your early retirement, you need to answer four simple questions. How much do you spend every year? How much are you currently saving? How much have you already invested? And when do you want to make work optional? Your yearly spending is the biggest factor because it actually determines how much you need saved. The higher your expenses, the more you need to retire. Once you know how much you spend annually, multiply that number by 25 to find your target nest egg. The multiply by 25 rule is actually an inverse of the 4% rule, which we've covered previously on this channel. Here's why it works. 4% is 1/25th of your total investments. So if you can withdraw 4% annually, then you need 25 times of your annual expenses saved. Make sense? Here's what this means in simple terms. Your money will keep growing over time, which helps offset the rising costs while you're still in retirement. Many financial experts have studied this, and they found that the 4% rule typically means that you can survive for like 30 plus years. This is because the stock market has historically grown enough to keep your savings strong, even when you're taking money out each year, even if the market goes down. So if you spend $50,000 a year, you'll need 1.25 million saved. If you spend $80,000 a year, you need 2 million saved. This is why reducing your expenses can massively speed up your goal to retirement. Not only does reducing your expenses lower your savings goal, but it also lets you save more each month. For example, let's say you spend $10,000 a month and want to retire early. Using the common 25 times your annual expenses, you need $3 million to retire. So $10,000 a month times 12 months times 25 is $3 million. But if you trim your expenses down to $8,000 a month, you only need $2.4 million to retire. And you can save that faster. If you're earning $12,000 a month, this change boosts your savings from $2,000 a month to $4,000 a month. That's not only double the savings rate, but also a shorter finish line. So by spending less, you save more now and you need less later. You know, I had a prospective client call recently where the guy was like wanting to retire in 10 years and had like nothing saved. And so this is a challenge. Sometimes I think people are so tied to this number, and you have to get really grounded in reality and realize that it is not about a number at all. Just because you're getting older doesn't mean you get to magically retire. Sure, there's Social Security. You know, maybe if you paid off your mortgage, that's going to lessen things significantly and you can dramatically reduce your lifestyle. My take is most people probably don't want to do that and want to have multiple streams of income, have more options than less options. So if that's you, keep watching. Also, I have some exciting news to share. I have been working hard in the background to create some sort of a blueprint on all the financial automation stuff. And so I worked with a team of people, spent weeks, hundreds of dollars on this. And so I'm selling it for the $7 bargain basement price. So it's linked down below. It's a financial automation blueprint. I hope that you'll check it out. You can check out the description below. And maybe that's a great first step for you if you've been like wondering what the deal is with all this automation stuff. So hopefully you love it. Links down in the bio. Check it out. Here's the problem. Society is rigged to keep you from hitting that number. And this is one of the biggest reasons that people struggle to retire early, because we live in a society that's designed to keep us constantly consuming. Think about it. Most people are trapped in a cycle where earning more means we automatically spend more. They get a raise and immediately upgrade their lifestyle, often subconsciously. But here's the secret successful retirees know. The less you need, the faster you can retire. When you break free from consumerism, two powerful things happen. Your savings rate skyrockets. Instead of just upgrading your lifestyle with each raise, you can now invest the difference. And your retirement number drops dramatically. If you're happy living on $50,000 instead of $100,000, you only need half as much saved. Here's the math. Someone earning $200,000 a year, but spending $180,000 will take decades longer to retire than someone earning $100,000 but spending $40,000. It's not about how much you make, it's about the gap between earning and spending. This is why the path to early retirement really starts with mastering your mindset around consumption. When you stop trying to keep up with the Joneses and start focusing on what truly brings you joy, financial freedom can become inevitable with the right systems rather than impossible. Companies spend billions of dollars convincing us that we need a bigger house, a newer, fancier car, the latest gadgets. This isn't by accident. Marketing is built to make us spend more money. It's that simple. Companies want us to believe that buying more stuff will make us happier. Here's an aside. I saw a commercial for a cream cheese company that you've heard of, and some dude is in a bathtub like eating chips with dipped in cream cheese or something with like the biggest smile on his face, as if that was legitimately contributing to this level of bliss. It's just crazy how the length these companies go. And here's a story of how all this marketing craziness began. Back in the 1920s, a man named Edward Bernays, who's actually a nephew of the famous psychologist Sigmund Freud, he changed how companies sell to us. He understood psychology and frankly weaponized it to change how we shop. Want to know what he did? Edward Bernays helped the American Tobacco Company break a major taboo: women smoking in public.
He said, we're losing half of our market because men have invoked a taboo against women smoking in public. Can you do anything about that? I said, let me think about it.
Might sound silly to us in 2025, but at the time it was seen as scandalous and socially unacceptable. So he reframed cigarettes not just as a product, but as a symbol of freedom and rebellion. He hired debutantes, you might think of these as like the OG social influencer, to march in the 1929 New York Easter Day Parade and light up cigarettes, which he cleverly branded as torches of freedom, while surrounded by press photographers. The stunt was a media sensation. By tying cigarettes to the women's liberation movement, Bernays tapped into this desire for independence and empowerment, helping normalize smoking for women and drastically increasing sales. It was the beginning of something much bigger and showed companies how to convince people to buy things they don't really need. Today, companies still use these and similar tricks to get us to spend more money. They know exactly how to get us to feel like we need to buy more and more. For instance, buy now, pay later tricks us into buying things that feel more affordable even if they're not. Store credit cards can lure you in with discounts, but that can ultimately lead to a lot of high interest rate debt. Limited time offers. Brands like Supreme and Nike hype exclusive drops with countdown timers, making people panic buy without thinking. Social media ads and influencers, Instagram and TikTok flood you with ads and influencer promotions, using your emotions to make you buy products that seem essential when they're often just impulse buys. And as a result, most people are trapped in the cycle of rampant consumerism, working harder just to keep up with a lifestyle that they don't actually need and isn't making them any happier. Add in credit cards and now you have a recipe for disaster. Breaking free from this is key to retiring early. Again, I bought things on Instagram. I'm not here to say like, don't ever buy anything. Obviously, like I use ads to sell my services and things like that. So I'm not like anti-marketing, but it's helpful to understand some of the underlying psychology around it and create barriers for yourself so that like you have a certain amount of spending money that you spend on again, I prefer a weekly basis. Now that you see this trap, you need to master this one skill first: the art of aggressive saving. If there's one number that determines how fast you can achieve financial freedom, It's your savings rate. Most people save less than 10% of their income, and that's why they work till their late 60s. The average savings rate in America is dismal at less than 5% and pales in comparison to many other nations. I just double checked the numbers in preparation for this video, and I was absolutely floored that South Korea is saving on average 35% of their income. But if you save 50% of your income, you can retire in 15 to 20 years. There are people, this sounds crazy, that save 70% of their income, and they can retire in like 7 to 10 years. That's the power of your savings rate. It shortens the amount of time that you need to work. And again, like, this is not about just giving up coffee and never traveling. It's about being intentional. The faster you build up your investments, the faster those investments start working for you. Compounding, growing, covering your expenses so you're no longer dependent on a paycheck. And here's what's really exciting. Once you hit a high enough savings rate and have enough investments compounding in the background, your required retirement savings actually goes down. Because if you're living well on less today, you won't need as much to maintain your lifestyle in the future. Save more, need less, it's a double win. This also means you don't wait until your 60s to retire. You can walk away earlier. Not necessarily stop working entirely, but to have the freedom to choose. Whether that means spending more time with family, traveling, or doing passion projects that might not pay very well or at all. The key is that the goal isn't retirement, it's freedom. The freedom to not have to work for money anymore. So let's talk about how to save more money. Now that you know that saving is super important to retire early, I'll show you some simple ways to do it. Whether you're just getting started or have been saving for a while, these tips can help you reach financial freedom faster. Automate investing. Set up automatic transfers so that you don't have to think about it. And I feel like I share this all the time on this channel, but one of the absolute best ways is to use the automatic increase feature on your 401k. So if you're doing 6% to get the match, there's a button that will say, hey, save 1% or 2% more every year, so that just the slow turn of the dial is going to be way less painful than like, hey, going into super hyper frugal monk mode just to have a super high savings rate. Increase your income. Obviously, a higher income makes saving that much easier. And I'm a massive believer, and all my clients know this, that if you have fixed spending and fixed monthly bills and deposit all of your income into a high yield savings account, when you do get those pay raises, when you do increase your income, when you get a bonus, commission, etc., all that money is set aside, all ready to be saved, so that as you're hitting other goals like your emergency fund, building out savings buckets for Christmas or travel or whatever, all that excess just gets invested. All by design. Cut the fat. Most people spend more than they realize. The first step is trimming expenses that don't move the needle for your happiness. Cancel subscriptions you don't use. You could switch from Spotify Premium to the free plan. Use YouTube instead of Netflix. Or share family plans with other people. Don't tell them I said that. Like, I literally just canceled a certain streaming service that also has a live TV solution. It was like $89 a month. You might be watching this video on that service. That's all I'll say. But I realized, like, we never watched it. I got it during football season, and I don't really watch football. And so I just been blowing money for a few months. So I Googled and spent less than 5 minutes to cancel it. And now I'm saving $89 a month effortlessly. Just one example. You can cook at home more often. For instance, making your own coffee a few times a week is like 50 cents a cup versus buying Starbucks for $4 to $5 a cup, or meal prepping your lunches for a few bucks. I know, going out to Chipotle and spending like $17, trust me. And look, I get it. I am not one of those people, if you've seen any of my content, that I am like anti-eating out. I love eating out. But there are limitations. And so in my opinion, instead of just using your willpower and spending less money, you have a weekly spending allowance that allows you to be able to do some of these things that you want to do. But frankly, from a happiness standpoint, if you eat out at restaurants every single meal, the happiness factor diminishes dramatically. Dave Ramsey loves to say, if you eat enough lobster, it tastes like soap. And I think what he's trying to get at is that by living this elevated lifestyle every single day of your life, every single meal, it loses the kind of wow factor and it doesn't make you happier. It does the opposite. Now your expectations for everything are through the roof. And so if you can have a baseline and then actually enjoy going out to eat with your family, that is the name of the game. Skip the brand new car, drive what you can afford, A new Tesla Model 3 is like 40 grand plus. It loses value immediately, like every other car. I get maybe there's some like greater lifetime value from, the fact that it's electric and less moving parts. I understand that. But a reliable Toyota Camry is still like 15 grand and gets you from A to B just as well. Fun fact, on the Tesla website, they don't even list the full price of the car. Leasing looks appealing, right? Why show you the whole number up when you can just lease it and have a financial disaster? Just like bright and pretty mushrooms can be poisonous, same with frogs. Marketing uses attractive pricing and deals to trick you into spending money that you shouldn't, at terms that are probably not in your favor. And I'll be the first to say, on the other end of the spectrum, you are setting yourself up for failure too. My wife and I went through 8 vehicles in 5 years. 10 days before we got married, both of our cars died on the same day. Her engine, my transmission. We had the same tow truck driver. We had to get a rental car to go down to our wedding in Jacksonville, Florida. 2 years later, the same thing happened 1 day apart, not the same tow truck driver. My wife said the last time something like this happened, something really good happened. We got married. Maybe I'm pregnant. And on that Fat Tuesday, that is when we found out that we were pregnant with our son, Freddie. Point is, if you pay too little for vehicles, because we were paying like $2,000 for clunkers, we got screwed so many times. So I think there is a happy medium when it comes to vehicles. No, you're not an idiot if you have a car payment, but there is a happy medium. You don't have to buy a brand new car. You don't have to buy a clunker. Probably doing something in the middle with a reliable vehicle, check consumer reports, is probably the way to go. Avoid trying to look successful on social media. Instead of buying designer clothes or the latest iPhone for Instagram posts, focus on experience and genuine connection. But if the average person watching this that's, let's just say 40 years old, has a $1,500 combined car payment, even just to retire at 65, at a 10% rate of return, that is literally $1.9 million. It's crazy. I say this all the time, that your car payments are absolutely not worth it. 9 times out of 10. Now that you know how to save the money, let's talk about the best ways to invest it to actually grow real wealth. Index funds like VTSAX, or the ETF equivalent VTI, which is the Vanguard Total Stock Fund, let you own thousands of companies with one click. They don't require stock picking skills. Most people will never beat the market consistently over 5-10 years plus. They don't require stock picking skills or daily monitoring, just consistency, which can be automated, by the way. And with a 10% annual average return, you're doing pretty good, certainly compared to inflation. But even if you invest $1,000 a month at a conservative 8% return, in a few decades, you'll have around $1.59 million. No tenants, no drama, just compound interest working for you in the background. It's a beautiful thing. And thanks to taxable brokerage accounts, you don't need to wait till 59 and a half to access those funds. Flexibility and freedom combined. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this, especially if you're in a corporate job that you enjoy, you've got a great income, there's no reason you can't crank up the dial on this stuff using a combination of, again, I'm a fan of the Roth 401k, if that's an option for you. Side note, if you are using a Roth 401k, the likelihood is that if you're getting a match, it's gonna be a pre-tax or traditional 401k. That's about because your employer wants a write-off given the pre-tax dollars that are in the account. Hopefully that makes sense. But then also combining the taxable means you've got now 3 tax advantage plays here to account for all the variables when it comes to retiring, which we'll talk about further. Quick note about 401ks. 401k, if you're not familiar, is the retirement account sponsored by your employer that lets you save and invest part of your paycheck before taxes come out. Again, that's the pre-tax 401k that I'm referring to. They typically give you access to a selection of stock mutual funds, some bond mutual funds, stuff like that. This means you can invest in the market while still getting tax advantages. Again, the pre-tax version is going to reduce your taxable income now, meaning you get the benefit on the front side. Oftentimes these come with employer matching, aka free money from your employer. And then again, the automatic investing piece is incredibly powerful here. Comes straight out of your paycheck, making it super easy to invest. Again, I've shown this image a bajillion times, but there is a 2020 census guide that shows that retirement accounts absolutely dominate everything else. My argument is because the money comes out without you thinking about it. You're not weighing out your paycheck. Should I invest these dollars or should I spend them? Do remember though that 401k funds are going to be locked in until 59 and a half, meaning if you try to pull money out before that, you're going to get taxes and a 10% penalty. So this works better as a broader long-term investment strategy. Unlike stocks, real estate gives you cash flow every month if it's working out right, even before you retire. A well-managed rental property or portfolio of properties can cover a lot of expenses. Quick example, a $300,000 rental earning $2,000 a month can pay for like some utilities and groceries, over time, maybe a weekend getaway. You can also force appreciation through renovations, improving management, the rental increase over time. And if you use leverage, aka getting a loan for the rental property versus paying cash for the whole thing, that $60,000 down payment or 20% of the loan gives you control of a $300,000 asset. And if the property grows at 3% annually, your gain is like $9,000 a year. So 15% return on your money. Again, obviously there are other risks that you have to factor in. If you want freedom sooner, you can use a combination strategy, investing in real estate and stocks and bonds and all the things. And stocks can drive long-term growth. Real estate can provide cash flow, but it's important to note that, hot water heater goes out, roof needs replacing. Those things can absolutely obliterate your cash flow very quickly. So having more than one rental property is going to be part of the plan more than likely if you want to get into that game. But most real estate investors that I follow would say that it's really about appreciation over time with rental real estate. And the cash flow might be the cherry on top. The nice thing is you don't need to pick winning stocks or have a part-time side hustle flipping houses necessarily. If you just feed the machine consistently, that could be, when I was in the Coast Guard, I worked with a guy that every time he got moved to a new unit, he would use his VA loan and buy a new property and then have the old one be a rental. And so that's a great way to build long-term wealth. But yeah, combination approach, big fan. Fun fact, my wife actually is a house flipper for what it's worth. Now that you've seen how stocks and real estate can power your retirement, let's take a look at some of the common traps investors can overlook. The hidden tax time bomb inside traditional retirement accounts. Most people put all of their money into a 401k that will later then probably become an IRA. But there's a hidden risk, taxes in retirement, aka legislative risk. When you withdraw money from the 401k, you have to pay taxes on it. Right now, tax rates are literally historically low, but they could increase in the future. Some might say that in 2030 they will double, which means retirees could owe more than they expect. Imagine going into business with a partner and there's an agreement where they could change the equity ownership of the company that you both own. They could change their salary payout anytime they want. That is a 401k because you are technically in bed with the government and they have all the power. They can change tax rates at any time without your permission. So what can you do? You can use Roth accounts. You might make too much money for a Roth IRA if you're watching this, but you can use a Roth 401k should you have that. Backdoor Roths are also an option. We could talk about that later. Again, there's taxable brokerage accounts as well. There are things like esoteric, very controversial, life insurance policies that have Roth-like tax features as well. And so any prudent person would also plan for expanded taxes, aka you need to save more money. Okay, if you've made it this far in the video, drop me a comment down below with a palm tree, as a symbol of your future retirement. Always remember, retirement isn't something you wait for, it's something you take control of. Every dollar you save, every smart investment you make brings you one step closer to freedom. You don't have to follow the traditional path. You can retire early. You can live life on your terms. The only question is, how soon do you want it? Now, if you want to learn more about financial freedom, check out my video, Get Rich Without Hard Work. I'll walk you through my favorite wealth building strategies that require minimal effort. Thanks for watching.